it's Elise here at Bowman Library with a whole new middle grade book spotlight. So for our theme this week, we are going to take on a little bit more of a somber tone because we are taking a look at books that are about or inspired by the events that took place on September 11th, 2001, because believe it or not, we are coming up on the 20th anniversary of that day that changed America as we know it. And one of the things I love about taking a look at books that deal with September 11th is because for those of us who are alive and could remember that time, that day is ingrained into our brain. But for so many of you, it's almost like a blip in your history class now, or a page in your textbooks. And books can do such an incredible role in letting you explore what happened that day, and not even that day, but the events that then took place in the days, weeks, months, and even years after. So let's take a look at 6 titles. We have some awesome fiction and nonfiction, so let's get started. Our first one is I Survived the Attacks on September 11th. It is part of the I Survived series. So this is all about that starts on September 10th. Lucas finds out that he is no longer able to play football because of the concussions he's gained, and he's really, really angry. And he feels the only person who would understand what is going on is his uncle Benny, who's a firefighter for New York Fire Department. And so on September 11th, he decides he's gonna skip school, he's gonna go find his uncle, and when he's down there though, that is when the events in New York City unfold. And he's trying to find his uncle when the Twin Tower, the attacks happen, and he's caught in the confusion of everything that takes place. And it's gonna be up to Lucas to survive and make his way home, all while trying to find out if his Uncle Benny is all right, if he survived. This fast-paced action will leave you like going as fast as you can through the pages, and you will be wanting to know what happened to not only Lucas, but also his Uncle Benny. This is I Survived the Attacks on September 11th. What were the Twin Towers? So if you love the Who Was books, there's a ton others. There's the Where Was and Where Is, and there's even the What Is or What Were. And this is all about the Twin Towers. They were built in New York City all the way back in 1973, and at that time, they were the tallest buildings in the world. This book is gonna take you through the time that they were first envisioned and put into design, and then actually how they were built, and then there were some crazy things that happened in the Twin Towers. Like, believe it or not, there was a man who decided to tightrope rock in between them. There's an awesome book called Man Who Walked Between the Towers that is amazing, all about that. And there was actually a bombing that took place in 1993 in the towers, so it survived that to make it to 2001. If you love buildings, architecture, or this is a unique way of looking at a piece of history that changed, this is what were the Twin Towers. Towers falling. So Deja has lived a hard life. Her dad has depression, anxiety, and he has this constant cough that won't ever go away. And because of all of those things, he is unable to hold a job. And because of that, Deja is always being moved around and around and around. And right now when our story starts, she's living in a group home. But living in this group home is actually kind of a blessing in disguise because she actually gets to attend this really awesome, amazing elementary school. And for the first time ever, she feels like she actually belongs in this 5th grade class that she's in, and she's learning and she's making friends, and especially with her classmates Sabine and Ben, and they each have their own backgrounds that have not always been easy as well, and they can just relate to each other. So on the 15th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, it is the first time that Deja really hears about any of the events that happened that day. And when she starts to ask her father questions about how that day was like, he starts to get really angry at her. And Deja starts to learn and figure out more about her family and about how 9/11 impacted and changed everything around her, including her dad. This realistic look at how 9/11 has these long-lasting effects, both emotionally, physically, socially, mentally. This one is a must-read as it's a unique look, and I think a lot of you can relate to Deja learning about this for the first time. This is Towers Falling. America is Under Attack by Dawn Brown. I love this nonfiction look at the events of 9/11 because what Dawn Brown does is he combines news reports, eyewitness accounts, and even like newspaper articles, and he takes you literally minute by minute through the events of September 11th in New York City, at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And this is offering just the facts in chronological order. You will read and see everything that happens, as well as learning about some of the people who were there, from firefighters to workers who were just going to work that day, and they were just trying to survive, and they lived through some harrowing tales. If you're looking for an incredible overview of everything that happened that day, without anything over the top being added, without any opinions, this will give that to you. It's a great choice to understand the events that changed everything from that day on. This is America is Under Attack. September 11th, Then and Now. So this book will take you from the before, the during, and the after of 9/11, especially in regards to the reactions from the American government and the impacts that this day then had on wars and events all over the globe that is still kind of going on today. So it also looks at how the events of that day specifically impacted like first responders, like police, firefighters, EMTs, and how they recovered from what they saw and what they experienced. Some have even become incredibly sick due to everything they breathed in, and they are still struggling with their health to this day. And there have been others that unfortunately have passed away from everything that's happened with them with their health. So this is a look at how 9/11 changed everything going forward, whether you think it was for the best or not, but this just presents those facts so you can make your opinion as you want once you've learned about what went on. This is September 11th, Then and Now. And our last one today is Fireboat. And I know this looks like a picture book, and I know we usually don't do a lot of picture books, but sometimes picture books can be amazing and they can share stories that we never even knew about, and this is one of those. So on the day of 9/11, as people were trying to flee the city, it went up against two bodies of waters that converged. Okay, so there was no place to go, and they were standing at this water, and so that's until boats and ships started appearing from all over, from like the Coast Guard to even like, the boats that take you to the Statue of Liberty. There's fishing boats, there's sightseeing boats, and they start showing up, and people get on these boats and they take them to safety across the water to New Jersey. But that was not the only thing that boats were needed for, and that's where our story comes in. As firefighters were trying to put out the many fires, not even in the Twin Towers in New York City, but around there as debris was falling, many of the fire hydrants became inoperable and they couldn't use them. So they reached out. They had this idea that there was this boat that was built all the way back in the 1930s called the John J. Harvey, and it was a fireboat that had been retired from service, and its job it could literally pump water from the river and shoot it even further than any fire hose could do. And that's what this is all about. As they go and they get the John J. Harvey, and the boat and the crew on board rush to safety and help whoever they can. So this one is a must read. It puts in perspective how much effort, help, and creativity went into helping others that day. This is Fireboat. So these are just 6 of the books that we have here at the library that deal with September 11th, both in fiction and nonfiction. And again, like I said earlier, you may not know or understand or even remember anything from that day, but books can help us. They can open those windows that are so important for us to remember about that day, for better or for worse. So I hope you tune back next week. We have a whole new different book spotlight, and I hope you have a great week.